Welcome back, it's DestinysJesus here. In today's video, I'm going to be looking back at what I learned from every single FNCS. We've had a lot of FNCSs now, 15 of them, all the way for the past 3.5 years, every few months. I'm going to be going back for the Chapter 1 map with Season X, going into the rotating game modes where we had squads, solos, duos, into the whole few years of trios, and then now into the past year of duos, where we've been going from the Chapter 2 map for trios, the Chapter 3 map for duos, and of course now into Chapter 4 Season 2. And I'm looking at every single FNCS win and what I learned from them. This video took an absolute insane amount of work for me to make, and of course my editor as well, so please leave a like if you enjoyed, and let's get straight into this with Young Calc, Zexshow, and Macwood winning Season X. To start off, we're going more than 3 years back in time to the very first FNCS. This is just after World Cup, which is Season X trios. Aqua, Stompy, and Shinkin won on EU, and Zexshow, Calc, and Macwood won on NA East. The one thing I will say about watching this back is just how much tarping has advanced, but the fundamentals haven't changed. Look at the entirety of the back tarp is just completely open, and these guys are just doing a full wide tarp throughout the middle of zone. Even here, just take a look at this Macwood tarp that he's doing. He's literally just leaving massive holes in it as they're running along. The one thing I will say about these guys tarping, and something you can still learn today, is just how well they stick to edge of zone as they get later into moving zones. Look here, they go the whole way towards the right hand side of zone, and that basically means that they can save an extra floor, because back here pretty much the whole meta was use pads and use some shockwaves and then just tarp the rest of the game. And these guys pretty much won FNCS just by having really good tarping and managing to conserve their mats. They just tarp along edge of zone, and as soon as someone was on their right, they were able to get a refresh on them, as you can see here. The game back here was absolutely so different. Zexshow's turning into a barbecue endgame. There's traps in the game, there's heavy snipers. I don't know. And this is also one of the best clutches in Fortnite history right here. Next up, we have the first FNCS hosted on the Chapter 2 map, so this map right here that you can see, which was FNCS squads. This was really interesting because we had no mobility, we also had RPGs, and it was honestly quite a skillful meta. You basically tried to manage Surge really well, take some mid-game fights that you can see Mongol and Benji are doing here, and these guys ended up placing second. First place was taken by the Swedish trio of Snappy and Wakey, if you guys remember them, and also on NA it was taken by Ronaldo and Avery and Kez and Unknown Army, who was just an absolute demon back in the days. The main thing that I learned from this FNCS, especially because I was doing a lot of coaching, was just how important it was to have a dedicated tarper. You guys saw in Season X just how tarping wasn't really that developed at all. However, now having a dedicated tarper who will just go through all of your mats, especially because you got 4 people with cap mats endgame to go through all of them and then start playing low ground, was so important. Another very important thing was just trying to take height early, because you could just hold height for the entirety of the game. There's basically 2 main playstyles that did very well, which is playing height and then also going ahead and claiming low ground and popping off like Unknown Army and his squad did to win FNCS. Next up, we've got the first of many duo FNCSs, and this is probably one of those remembered seasons for a lot of people. This is back when we had Brutus's minigun, we had all of these crazy items in comp, we had launch pads, and honestly, this was such a good meta I remember watching for most people. This is also the start of where we had lobby conditioning. Aqua in one of the grand finals games, he got 4th overall, managed to just run around on height with a minigun with no mats, just spraying the minigun every so often and keeping everyone below him scared of that minigun. That's how powerful some of these items were. People wouldn't even contest the solo on height because they were afraid to look up because of the minigun. On NA East, we had Zayt and Saf win. EU, we had Adalix and Nate, followed by closely Queasy, who just started to pop off in comp. We're going to see a lot more from him in a little bit later in these FNCSs. You can see here just how broken this minigun was. Aqua absolutely dominated all of the qual rounds with this and got 4th overall on EU with it. One specific thing that I remember very nicely from this FNCS was Dubs and Mega and how they took height in one of these grand finals games. First of all, they realized that the zone's not going to play into the ocean. It's very important to remember the zone can't play into the ocean, especially moving zones. So right here, they go and put themselves on the right hand side of the zone towards where the landmass is. And then as zone swaps, they pad up and then the first team up this hill, and they're actually able to contest the dominating high ground team and take height and then win this game from it. It's always very important as you're playing an endgame to be aware of the terrain around you, and these guys showed it really well right here. Next up, the 4th FNCS that we had was the first solo FNCS, which is the FNCS Invitational. This tournament had open qualifiers. It was eventually won by Furious on NA and then Janice C over on EU. What I learned the most from, however, was just how good Benji was at W King back here. Benji won both of the open round tournaments with loads of other players competing and W King at the same time, and he was absolutely dominant in these. These games are all really stacked, and Benji was at absolutely another level. Everyone was talking about how Benji was the favourite to win the finals, and unfortunately, he didn't do too well in the finals in the end. Take a look at how Benji approaches this next fight. This is literally a textbook example what you should be doing almost 2.5 years later. First of all, waits perfectly for a nice opportunity to beam somebody when they're jumping and falling down, and he pressures the entire time he comes over. Pressures non-stop, able to get even more damage on the player just by pressuring as they're trying to get heals off. Pickaxes once, waits, get the wall low, tries to exploit in, gets exit control, goes ahead and gets a double edit from above, keeps on pressuring, and when the wall's low, finally gets straight into the box. Benji's fighting at this point in time was on another level compared to every other player, and it really showed off in his gameplay. Benji back here at the start of 2020 had better mechanics than pretty much everyone watching this video right now. Look at this guy. He's getting cat brick from munching that wall, fully pieced up during an early game fight. Benji was on another level, and he absolutely dominated the quals of this FNCS. Next up, we have another solo FNCS, which is won by, of course, the GOAT, Tayson. Tayson in this tournament, just this old solo tournament from 3 years ago, has better fundamentals than 99% of players still playing this game today. I would argue he probably has better fundamentals at this point in time, 3 years ago, than probably 90% of tier 1 pro players who still make a living from this game. He was so much further ahead of every other player. Just take a look at how well he plays this game. Perfectly drops down off height. Nice refresh right here. Not just the micro things that he's doing in terms of aim and mechanics, but just all of his decision making was absolutely flawless. Again, another perfect layer change, getting down to low ground, building a 2x1 on the front side, on actually dead side of low ground, and then now as his zone swaps here, he's got a whole load of extra time to look for kills. He finds a nice double refresh on 2 players box fighting backside, and what does he do as soon as he gets this refresh and gets this another kill here, is he starts thinking about his win condition after he gets this kill. There's a whole load of mats from this, realizes he's got a mass advantage on everyone else in the lobby, so what does he do? Tarp forward for a second, get his heals off as you can see here, and then starts checking height. He's already checked height once, which is really nice, looks down to low ground, gets a refresh rather than trying to pop any more heals, and then goes ahead and just emits the most nasty bit of piece onto this guy on height, takes him out, and then of course there's no way this guy on low ground's winning this 1v1 in this situation, and Tayson plays this absolutely perfectly. Tries to get a charge shot as he falls down right here, then he rebuilds up, realizes that it's playing up this hill, so he goes ahead and levels himself up once or twice, right and peek from back in storm, and then swaps his angle over to the left to take out the player. Unbelievably well played game. There is so much that you guys can learn from watching these old tournaments. Next up, we've got Stark Season FNCS, which of course was won by Mongrel, Micho and Tayson. These guys would just take high ground and dominate the lobbies from there with Stark rifles, and Tayson was showing why he was to become one of the best IGLs in Fortnite history. Mongrel and Micho also held their weight. They were both capable of really good solo clutches back to back in these tournaments. Pretty much any time one of them went down or 2 of them went down, the last one left alive would be able to solo clutch so much placement, which resulted in an FNCS win. One very useful mechanical thing that you can learn from this, even watching back here, is just how snappy Mongrel's crosshair placement, especially as he's dropping down off height here. He's perfectly able to cover his head and tarp in and not take any damage when he's low HP. One minor mechanical thing that I learned from this FNCS was just how important it is to have good mouse movement and just being quick with mouse movement. Mongrel back here was doing speed training the whole time, and it actually showed off if you watch his gameplay, especially right here. As he's dropping down off height, he's able to easily flick back up and cover his head, and he would still be able to line up max damage. So he basically had perfect mouse control, allowed him to box up really quickly and not take damage, and also was able to hit really crucial flick 200 pumps when he was clutching. Right, it's just so good. Next up, you've got another trio FNCS, which is won by Janice, Chapix, and Hen. These guys were unbelievably good at this trio meta. They really mastered pretty much playing low ground properly and claiming low ground and cutting off other people, as well as going ahead and taking height. Multiple games in the finals, they took height early and they held it throughout the entire moving zone. And especially in this last game here, these guys were absolutely clinical on low ground, wiping out everyone else. I'll let you enjoy this. Next up, we've got Primal Season, which is won by Queasy, Juriki, and Trulex over on the high ground on EU, and of course, won by the second FNCS win for Day, Mirror, and Reverse 2K. So the 2 fraggers, and then Reverse 2K acting as that sort of IGL support player that you guys can learn a lot from. One thing that you guys can learn from watching Reverse 2K and this during this FNCS is just how good of an IGL he is in terms of keeping his teammates on a leash and basically acting as support when they do risky plays. He'd always be the guy sitting back and support spraying, making sure that the angles are covered, making sure there's nobody pickaxing in the back. Like just right here, just holding that back wall as another team's fighting and making sure his teammates come back and they don't overextend. Another good example of this is just right here. As these guys go ahead and start server spraying somebody, he's always double checking the back, making sure everything's secure. It's really important in any type of team modes that you have somebody who is playing like this and just making sure everything's secure and safe and mistakes aren't going to happen. Next up, we got Solo All-Stars Finals. This tournament, I learned so much about solos. I always thought before this, I know a lot. I ended up doing group coaching where I had Tayson who ended up winning, Veno who I was live coaching as well, who got second, as well as Kinzu who got 5th, and Reason who got 6th, as you can see here. Everyone in this tournament popped off, and I learned so much about solos. So let's talk about what I learned. First things first, which is going ahead and using a dead side of 50-50, and basically just using dead side to your advantage. Dead side in solos, especially during later zones, if he knows how to read it, is extremely good. You can see here, Veno instantly gets himself through dead side, he's completely iset for everyone else, and gets himself towards front side on edge of storm. Now next is using pads properly. I came up with double dipping halfway through while I was coaching these guys, and double dipping is so effective just because of the fact that you can go ahead and save so many mats, and it's very risk free if you do it properly. You can see here, Veno, the greedy bastard that he is, goes ahead and does a triple dip, and even goes for a quad dip as well, which you definitely can do. You can still do double dipping any type of area where there's mobility back in storm. Just go ahead and hit it again if you need to. So you can see here, he basically cuts out on the whole of first moving just by having a pad, and he's also going ahead and carrying whites. High layer ended first moving on solos, and Veno was also able to take high ground pretty much every single game of this tournament. Veno, on average, had the world's best placement out of every single player. So his placements in each game was the world's lowest compared to everyone else, which is absolutely crazy, just because of how consistent he was. This is a really nice height tech that Veno does, where he goes ahead and sneaks back through his tarp, and then gets an off angle on the guy on height. Nice simple chop out, and then he's able to ramp above him and take height. Veno always tries to take height either on first moving or on one of these later moving zones like third moving right here. And as soon as he gets it, he went straight back up to these old builds and was able to hold it from here. Next up, we've got the FNCS, which is won over on NA East by Muzz, Booga, and Mero, and of course, Setty, Cami, and Teak over on EU. If you guys want to learn to tarp, please go back and watch how Setty tarped in all of these games. It's basically a masterclass on pathing. Everything that he does is extremely good, including how he's playing his front side, his layers, his edge. Everything that he's doing is extremely nice. As you can see here, he swaps to metal when they get to a little bit more of a congested area. He goes ahead and tanks storm in a second here. As soon as they get a little bit more busy, as you can see, people are padding. He goes ahead and tanks 4 ticks of storm to get this nice front side position. One very nice thing that his teammates always do is they automatically drop him mats without him really needing to ask. They just automatically do it. It's lovely to see. And also, they're always on top of him. So now, as they get towards the end of zone, he builds a nice wide 2x2 kill box so they can go ahead and look for kills and refreshes on teams around them. If you guys want to learn to tarp, go back and watch these old videos and VODs from Setty. Next up, we've got the last tournament hosted on the Chapter 3 map, which is going to be the FNCS Trios Grand Royale. This was won over on EU by Tayson, Chapix, and Hen, and also won over on NA East by Booga, Mero, and Jukes. Booga Mero just won the FNCS prize to this as well. One thing that I learned from this tournament is just how good you guys' comms should be. Take a look at Booga's comms just from the start of this video right here.
We can pad this. Follow me. Ready? Go up. Hit this. It's on me. I'm holding. Glide. Just hold it. We're gonna land above this, okay? I'm gonna land above this and go up one. Wait. Go back. Yeah, I'm with. Perfect, man.
300 below.
Okay, we still have another pad. We can stagger and look.
We need to look for something.
I'm spraying that tarp. 30.
Basically, every word that Booga says has valuable information for his teammates. There's no fluff, there's no panic. It's just all clear, concise information, and it's all very well thought out. These guys won FNCS primarily off just having really good chemistry and communication as a trio. Now we're into the start of Chapter 3, which comes with the duo FNCSs. NA East was won again by Booga and Mero, and this was Spider-Man season, which of course Hen and Queasy won. And we were looking at this insane solo clutch by Hen, where he was able to clutch and win the final game to take home FNCS. Unbelievable. So the one thing that you guys should learn from watching this FNCS clutch right here from Hen is the fact that he goes ahead and plays it perfectly. He knows when he has to take risks and when he should just slow down and play passively. First of all, he aggroes his wall to get a body. He knows he needs a Spider-Man. He aggroes the wall to get a refresh on his solo. And then from here, he gets extremely stacked and he gets Spider-Mans, which of course was so powerful in this FNCS. And what does he do as soon as he gets these Spider-Mans is he slows down completely. He knows he's got loads of mats compared to other duos. He simply just plays high layers and plays very risk-free for the next time being built to 2x1 and plays nice and slow. Another thing that he did very well was going front side at the correct timings to look back for potential refreshes and hold kills. You can see here, he's looking back, takes a lot of damage, but he's able to get a knock. And what does he do as soon as he gets that knock? Is nothing. He just waits for the player to die back in Storm. He knows he has a mat advantage. He knows he shouldn't try to box fight for that refresh. And instead he goes ahead and just plays the rest of his game out. And at this point, he realizes it's all solos left. And he's playing a solo cash cup, which of course Hen excels at. Take a look at what he does in terms of being safe as he builds up on this high ground player with a shotgun. Gets that crack, realizes the player's playing like he's got no mats based on his builds back in Storm. And now he simply just ramps up, gets his siphon on the other guy without peeking him at all. He went down to full damage, and now he plays the rest of this game perfectly, even though he's got absolutely no mats. Pressures front side, make sure they're not able to look up, realizes it's still all solos, so all he can do is go ahead and play back on Storm, like hiding on these wood walls right here. It's a really good play to do. And then he continues to play extremely slow, just sits on height, pressures people, and then only now, after getting this damage, does he aggro on it, as you can see. Gets the refresh, gets all the mats, and then take a look at how calmly he plays this 1v1, taking absolutely no risks unless he had to finally go for the final shot. Absolutely insane solo clutch to win FNCS in the last game. Next up, we've got another FNCS in duos, which was won by, of course, Aqua and Veno. The one thing that I learned from this FNCS is how important it is to have a fragger who can do more things than just frag. If you're just a fragger and you're playing an FNCS final, you're so limited, especially in duos, because of the fact that you can't call rotates, you can't do plays. Veno is the perfect example of somebody that fits in extremely well with any type of IGL, Queasy or Aqua, doesn't matter. Those IGLs that make big calls and big risky plays, he is perfectly capable of filling in those extra roles and going ahead and doing smart plays as well. Just for example, this very first game, Aqua's getting greedy, trying to get a siphon on backside and going for this refresh. However, Veno's just perfectly capable of doing a really nice rotate in while Aqua's able to do this play. The thing that separates Veno and the reason why he won this FNCS compared to other teammates and other duos that have a really good fragger is the fact that he does a lot more than just being a fragger. This right here is a perfect example of what Veno is good at and why these guys won FNCS. Of course, Aqua's making the big ball high call where he's just going ahead and landing on height, but take a look at what Veno does. He's basically doing all the tarping and all the secure work while Aqua is able to behead and call threats. It works so well.
Go front. 200 wood only, 200 wood. Me neither. Right, connect to these kids. We need to spread them. You have that infantry. They're looking up. Just keep trying. Blind us. Same, I have 200 wood. 30. Keep going, connect to that. Yeah, 50. One on us.
Next up, we've got the last FNCS before the Invitational, which was won by Janice and Badil and Avery and Commandment. The one thing that I learned from this FNCS was how important it is to have a really solid early surge plan. These guys would basically always trade surge early, they would get a lot of surge, and that would allow them to have the freedom to go dead side and basically skip out on the entirety of first zone surge. They would tank Storm, they would go wide around in Storm and avoid everyone else, and that meant on average they had by far the best mats going into first moving compared to every other team. These guys didn't necessarily pop off too much in the games, didn't get any big games wins like Aqua and Veno. However, what they did really well was just having consistent average games where they get like top 8 consistently just from having good mats going into endgame. They basically mastered the whole of their early surge plan because of the fact that they had such good dead side rotates after that. Next up, of course, we've got Cami and Setty winning the FNCS Invitational with Veno and Queasy contesting them and then dying off spawn in their last game not to win. The one thing I will say that I learned from this tournament is just how important it is to have land prep and getting used to playing on an unfamiliar setup. Look how calm Cami and Setty look here going into the last game, whereas Veno looks like he's shitting a brick and Queasy just looks like he's spaced out. These guys were 100% focused and it allowed them to win this off-spawn fight. Of course, you can say whatever you want about not being able to place a wall in this situation. Maybe Veno didn't know that and Cami did know that. However, I think that Cami just knew he was going to win that Angel. He didn't even realize the wall. I think he just knew he was going to win that Angel. You can see how confident he was playing. He's just running at Queasy with the attack, and then he also just goes ahead and runs at Veno in this situation because he knows that he has that confidence in him, and Veno was likely to wobble out and miss the shot which of course he's done twice now. A little bit unfortunate.
Hate it. He's trying to bait the revive so that way Cammy might peek. Breaks through the wall. Shot's gonna be fired. And they do it. Become legends are on top.
And lastly, the most recent FNCS, we've got Tayson, of course, the GOAT, winning with Mustache, and Aqua and Cold winning over an N8. The main thing I learned from this FNCS is just how good Tayson is at rotating without mobility still. Remember what I said earlier about Tayson having the best fundamentals compared to all the other players way back in that first solo FNCS that won, that first FNCS that he won. Now he's won 5, and he's still doing the exact same things. He still has those solid fundamentals built up. As you can see right here, he rotated into 50-50 perfectly with a really nice timing, and then he uses dead side for first moving as well. When everyone else was hammer rotating, he got a perfect rotate right here. I'd highly recommend you guys go watch this full video, why Tayson is the GOAT, if you want to learn more about why Tayson's fundamentals are so good. Alright, that's all for this video. It took me a very long time to go ahead and record, and I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a couple things about these old FNCSs, maybe just recapping it was quite fun, and also there's still, of course, fundamental strategies and things like that you can learn as well.